Many, many years ago when I was teaching, I think this was about 94 or 95 in Dallas, there was a very, very shy man on the back row. It was him, believe it or not. Truly, truly. And then one day I heard him play the piano because he was a famous Dallas celebrity all over in the nightclub scene and really all over the place in Dallas. And over time, I just began to know it was amazing. He was so well hidden. So you're an example of let your light shine, because it shines brightly now, and you guys are so lucky to have him. Seriously, wow. But I remember when you were on the back row, well hidden. So, but we all know what we were looking at. You know, the thing about being a speaker is I write notes, and I do have a handout for later in the night, and then I get up here, and believe me, the whole download changes. So I'm probably not going to talk about what I thought I was going to talk about. So just be patient and go with me. And I don't know where this came from. But if any of you have ever studied the course, one of my favorite sayings from the course is, I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do. He who sent me will direct me. Because how many times have you planned what you were going to say about anything to anybody, and you rehearse it all in your head and turned into a recital, and then you plan what you're going to do, and then you get there and nothing and no one was the same as what you thought it was going to be. So I stand in that knowingness tonight, and it's a beautiful full moon, and so what I would hope for you today on this full moon is that you get all the clarity and all the courage you can possibly handle. So I hope you can get lots of insights that you once knew and maybe you forgot about them. You can brush them off, use them again. Whatever you get's whatever you get, and it's all coming from the within. Long time ago, this was in about 1995, I was sitting in a hotel in some city because I was traveling at that time. True story. A man came up and we were just visiting about nothing. And he wrote a note on a napkin. I thought, oh boy, he's giving me his phone number and wants me to call him. But he wrote a note on the napkin, and this is what it said. True story. Learn what you need to learn, to be what you need to be, to handle any given situation for any length of time. And he left it and walked off. Have no idea who said it. I've since looked it up. I don't think anybody said it that I know of, that I could find. I mean, you guys may be better at searching than I am. I had no idea what that was going to mean in my life. So think about it for a moment. Learn what you need to learn, to be what you need to be, to handle any given situation for any length of time. So have you ever been in the middle of something and you're thinking, wow. So you had this plan A in your life. And fortunately, one of the most valuable things that my mother taught me, and she passed when I was young, is you better always have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D, and you better have an E just in case. And so, I don't know, is anybody's life in here? I'm just curious, kind of showing up maybe like you thought it was when you were going to graduate college and, you know, and you were going to be married and have 2.5 kids and making several million by now, or whatever your thing was. But life has a different way of leading us in many different directions. So I hope that we can learn what we need to learn. And then I'm a cycles analyst. I'm fascinated by every kind of cycle that I can possibly study, from real estate cycles to stock market cycles, to demographic cycles, to astrological cycles, numerology cycle, anything you can show me, Fibonacci numbers. I've always been fascinated by cycles, which can give us a hint on how long something might last. At least you maybe have a clue if this a short thing or a long thing. So hopefully you can position yourself accordingly. Lots of things come in 9-year cycles. Some things come in 7-year cycles, some come in 2-year cycles. But it helps me to at least think I know something, but usually you know nothing. So you're back to that again. So this is kind of the way I see life after years of this. It's kind of like we're a juggler. And so there's 3 rings that we play in. Just pretend like you're at the circus. So you've got your financial balls that you're juggling, right? And we're always juggling something financial. Even if you have a lot of money, then you got to figure out how to invest it and what to do and what sector's hot and what do we do next, or is it going to disappear? So we're juggling our financial balls, or lack of. And then you can be rocking along, and then suddenly you're juggling your health balls. And so then everything. Now you're going, what is going on with my body? What's going on with my health? Who should I talk to? What is this? What's going on? And then there's aging, as well as any other thing that could be going on. So then your health is on the radar screen. And then your relationships. Speaking of that, one of my favorite books is The Power of Who. If you haven't read it, it's great. And so the importance of that is you need your 3 close people. For example, at work, your 3 close people that you know have your back, like Jesus had his 3 favorite disciples. And then you need your 12 close people. And that will change over time because somebody may die, leave, go away. They don't like you anymore. You don't like them anymore. Whatever happens with people along the time. But then you're juggling your relationships. And what I found about relationships, sometimes the people that you meet, and we have no idea if they're coming for a reason, season, or a lifetime. We have no idea. So I have a friend that I've been friends with here for 40 years, Nan Linky. We met in graduate school in Houston 40 years ago. I had no idea that 40 years later she would still be anywhere remotely in my life, or anybody for that matter. Michael, 20 plus years ago. I've known Penny forever, Roz, Connie. And so when you meet somebody, you have no idea. Is it just going to be a little short thing, or is it going to be a medium thing, or is it going to be a long thing? What I find in my life, sometimes people that I really like, and I hope it lasts a really long time, maybe they just came through just to drop off a napkin with an important message, and then they're on down the road, and that's the last you ever see of them, and you didn't even get their name. So a game that I do try to play as much as I can is what can I give and receive to this moment? What can I give and receive to this moment? And if you've had health scares over the years and you've told you're not going to be here anymore repeatedly, as I have and probably a lot of people have, then it increases the importance of you better seize the day. You know, Buddha said if you take good care of this moment, you take good care of all time. So if you're taking care of this moment, then you take care of the next one and the next one, and then time passes. And we don't even know what time is anyway. It's an illusion, and then we like to make sense of it, and then you learn what you learn. But one of the things, my surrogate father, because my parents passed when I was young, so I adopted him as my surrogate father. He passed probably 5 or 6 years ago. And he and his wife studied the Course in Miracles when it was a pamphlet, before it ever even became a book or made its way into where it is now. So on his last 2 days of life, I went to visit him. I didn't know it was his last 2 days. And he said, you've got to find this page in the teacher's manual. And he gave me one word. So I went home and devoured this and found what he was talking about. So I thought I'd share it with you just to see if it makes any sense to you. So you're rocking along in life, just doing your thing. And then have you ever been through a period of suddenly everything is completely undone? It's like the money is completely undone, or your health is totally undone, or your relationships are totally undone. And then you're standing here going, now what? That's the reason I titled this what I did. You're walking along, you're going, now what the heck does this even mean? So then how long does the undone last? Sometimes it's just in a split second. And we can call that a holy instant. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a holy instant. It's the time that it's happening. Some people call it a satori, where you're having a sudden insight, or it's an epiphany. Oprah calls it an aha moment. But in any event, your life's changed permanently as you knew it. It won't be resuming that same level of awareness that you once had. And then we stay in that for a while. But I don't know, what do you do in an undoing phase? I like Tony Robbins too. I've taken all of his things. But one of his courses that he goes into is the 6 basic human needs. How we have such a need for certainty, and some personalities have even more of a need for certainty. But if it's too certain, you'll get bored. But we also have a need for uncertainty. But if it's too uncertain, then you wig out. That's what I think is going on in the world right now. We have a very high level of uncertainty on many, many topics. I guess some personalities like that level of uncertainty, but most of us like a little more certainty. But really, we don't have any kind of certainty, except for me, trust God. That's a certainty for me, and I would assume it is most of us, or we would be doing other things tonight on a Wednesday night, besides being here. So in your undoing, when something has just been undone, what do you do? What does anybody do? Usually we freak out in one sort or the other. Fear just kind of becomes our new best friend, and we're going, no, wait a minute, I know better than this. I've studied this forever. I know this, I know that. Why am I doing this? And then fear in your life takes whatever form it takes. We talk about the 7 sins, if you will. But unity defines sin as what? Self-inflicted nonsense. It's the thing that we keep doing over and over and over, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And then you look up and you're still doing it again. You're going, here I go again. So I thought I would at least mention what they are, and then you can see if this is anything that you do in fear. So pride is one of the first. So you just lost your job. You walked in and you were pretty sure you were getting a promotion, but suddenly you're not there anymore. So pride can take over. Then envy can sneak in at any time. And anger can certainly be present for all of us, given that there's a couple of hundred emotions a day and anger cycles in and out. And then there's laziness and lust. So some people just get lazy when everything's undone. They just give up and go, okay, I'm not going to do anything. And there's lust. And then there's greed, and then there's gluttony. So just for your own inventory, what do you do? When things become undone, which one of those is your go-to? Or you're more likely to go to pride or envy or anger or laziness or lust or greed or gluttony or anything else. It could be anything else. There's many, many branches off the fear tree. And then you have to get over yourself if you're going to continue on. And if you're not going to continue on, that's fine. And some people do check out at that stage. But then we go through another cycle, and it's called sorting out. That's the second part of that. So finally you accept, okay, well, this unraveled, that maybe the thing that I wanted, and I was pretty sure I had a handle on my will be done, and I've taken enough classes in that on how you write this and write that and do this and do that. And if you do this, you're going to get that. And I remember Nan told me once, and I was in the prime of just doing this. I thought, you got to be kidding me. I just did a treasure map. I wrote a list, and, all this is surely going to happen. She goes, no, life cannot be reduced to that. I didn't get that at the time. I get it now. It can't be reduced. Not that there's anything wrong with doing all that. It's fun, and it's interesting, and some of it comes to pass, and some of it's exciting. And then sometimes we have a plan B. Has anybody read the new book that just came out called Option B? Yeah. Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, and her husband passed suddenly. So her book is now Option B, because Option A is no longer, it's not an option, because he's not there. And it's got some valuable pearls in it that we all can use. It's another book with some information, but then how do you apply it? And then the second phase is sorting out. So now you've accepted that whatever this was just became undone, and you're not getting your way, and everything's changed as you know it. And then you get to sift through and sort out for some length of time. And some people camp there forever, and they're still analyzing and trying to figure it out, and what does this mean, and all kinds of things. The Course tells us we're really allowed to ask one question. I don't know if anybody knows what it is, but the question is, what is this for? So in other words, what did I learn? If this is my teaching tool and my learning device, even if I don't like it, what is this for? How can I gain some strength or humility or understanding or knowledge or courage? What am I to learn from this? And then we go through the relinquish stage. It finally dawns on you that life is not the way you thought it was going to be, and you've sorted it out, and so now what do you need to get rid of? What beliefs or what thoughts or what attitudes or what behaviors for you to move on down the road into the next way of being? And I find that it's very helpful if you've got like-minded people around you in every phase who can not offer you advice, but just kind of ask you the right questions so that you can wind up in the right direction, perhaps, by asking you the right questions. Because if we're listening to someone else's advice, how do they really know? They don't know. They know their experience of their knowing, but do they know your experience of your knowing? So for me, I like to be around people who ask me wonderful questions that I can then go think about and then take it into prayer and to meditation to see if that's my answer for me right now. Is it right time, right action for me? Then we go through a settling down phase. Things usually kind of calm down now in your new existence, whatever that is. Things calm down, and that you can last there, however long you last there. And then we get to go into a period of achievement. But you're achieving in a way that you didn't ever dream possible. You're doing things and you're around people and having experiences that you never even thought were possible. Now that's the way I do choose to live, because I am spontaneous. It's just my nature, and all the planning people around me, it drives them crazy, but that's my nature. And so over the years, the things that have happened to me have been completely spontaneous, out of the clear blue. All I did was suit up and show up, be present, do whatever it was I could do, and then just let the magic happen. That doesn't work for everybody. I think it's of great value to understand your personality, your map, so that you can get to wherever you're going to do whatever you want to do. But I wanted to share with you some of the sayings that I say to myself, and I would love to hear some other people's. When times get really tough, I don't remember who used to say this. I think it was Wayne Dyer, actually. If you squeeze a lemon, you get lemonade. If you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. So when life squeezes you, what do you get? What do you get? You get something. And then what do you tell yourself in a time that things are just feel all discombobulated? It's kind of a zone between whatchamacallit and whatnot. You're going, whatever. I have no idea what's going on. But what do you tell yourself? What are your tools that you rely on? You say what? You got this, dude. Okay, that's good. Yeah. And so sometimes we have to have funny little short things. There's lots of scriptures that I've memorized not lots, but several, that bring me comfort. And one of them is Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you. It's a long one. That one works for me. So we need to have something to hang on during a time when it seems like it's crazy, or else you lose your footing. You completely lose your footing. And it's very helpful to have like-minded people who can be with you, not advise you, but ask you the right questions and just trust that you're going to get from the beginning, middle, to the end of the lesson. And maybe has some clue about the length of certain cycles on things. Is anybody in the middle of any health, juggling of the balls in your health right now, where your health is acting crazy? That's a tough one. It's tough because wherever you go, I don't care how much money you have or how many people you have, when your health, when the body's acting up, you get to accommodate. Life is completely different when you're having health things going on, and then you just somehow trust that you'll be led to the divine right doctor or the divine right procedure or the divine right vitamin, mineral, energy worker, whatever is your thing next. And that's all. Only one person's in the middle of any health thing. Who's in the middle of any money thing right now? It could be good, too. Sometimes we have money flying in and then you don't know what to do with it. But anybody in the middle of a money lesson right now? Yeah. And we all get to recalibrate. That's what these times are, is to learn to recalibrate based on something, some information that we're not sure that we have, right? And who's in a relationship issues? Family, it could be anybody. Could be the neighbor next door, somebody moved in. Yeah, because there's a lot of people on the planet now. What was it, Friedman that wrote Hot, Flat, and Crowded? Yeah, I think we've arrived now. I think it's hot, flat, and crowded. But out of that, we have to all get to figure out a way to get along in some level of harmony for the people who want harmony. It's not happening in all places right now. I live in Addison, which is right outside of Dallas, and we had a new mayor take over this weekend, and somebody must have been watching too much CNN or something. But they stood up after the new mayor got elected and said, "Make America great again, make Addison great again." And it's a calm, peaceful, relatively okay community. And it was almost like they were quoting what they'd seen on the news stations and applying it to Addison. I thought, wow, I don't see what really the connection had to do. But if we're involved in too many things, in listening and watching, I can take the news, and I don't mind the news, but I have to limit myself to about 5 minutes, because after that, my container starts to get full, and it throws me off. So I'd like to be aware and informed and know what's going on, but I can't do much more than 5 minutes. Now, maybe the way you are, you can do more than 5 minutes. When I've been in a real tough situation, I can't remember the long flowing. Some of our unity affirmations are really long and wonderful, but I can't remember them if I'm up against it. So I just go with trust God, and I say it over and over and over again for me. But I'd be curious to hear what anybody else uses in a time of, or a prayer or a scripture, or what grounds you, what centers you. Yes? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. The Serenity Prayer, absolutely. Beautiful one, the Serenity Prayer. Because we still are under the illusion that we can change other people. I'm not sure how we are still sustaining that thought, that we think we can control another person. Yes? Yeah, the prayer of protection. Yeah, the love of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. Yes. Yes, I and my Father are one. This too shall pass. That's a great one. That's one of the things that Sandberg talks about in her book, is when something happens and it feels like a tragedy, it seems like it's going to affect every area of your life forever and ever and ever. And it does change your life perhaps forever and ever, but it doesn't usually have quite the same intensity further down the road as it does initially. This too shall pass. I'm in the middle of teaching an SEE class in Dallas right now, so we're supposed to do 5 consecutive days, but I got a pass break to be here and give everybody a homework assignment. So I'm working with the book Spiritual Economics, Eric Butterworth. Probably y'all have read it many times, but each time I work with that book, I get more and more information. This is one of my favorites, that God can only do through you, God can only do for you what he can do through you. God can only do for you what he can do through you. So then he invites us to ask this question: what about you is making it difficult for God to work? What about you? What personality trait, character defect, stubborn, opinionated, whatever your thing is, what about you? If you could let go of that and put it down, even just for a week or two, I wonder what God could do through your life. So Butterworth he's my favorite of all of our unity people. And he says repeatedly that fear cuts off the divine flow. I got an insight this week, for me, that I don't have a fear that thy will be done is not going to be done, because I sit and think, how is thy will be done not going to be done? Is that even possible, that thy will be done isn't going to be done? So then why would we go to fear? I think we're afraid my will won't be done at the time that we want to have it done. I think it's the root of fear. I do. And it came to me and I thought, now that really, it is pretty profound. Because if that's what my concern is that what my will be done isn't going to happen with who I think it should happen and when I think it should happen, then maybe it really is cutting off the divine flow, because it's not the divine flow anyway. It's not. So if we could stand in the knowingness that thy will be done is going to be done, some of it we're going to love and it's going to be way beyond our expectations, and some of it you might not like. It may take you on detours along the road that you didn't know that you were going on. I know once, but this is just a good one because I like to focus on those, because Eric Butterworth also says, focus on what you want to see live and grow. So a lady that I have worked with in Dallas, if you schedule an hour appointment with her, she always says you got 5 minutes, and then the other 55 minutes we're focusing on solutions, or at least trying to navigate ourselves. So you've got 5 minutes. Sometimes we need way more than 5 minutes to empty the container that's full. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes, I think one of the songs you sang, at least that's what I heard. When I hear Michael play, I go completely in hypnosis. So I'm not sure what he said, but this is what I thought you said, is that you almost become the experience of the thing. It becomes your identity. And it's not even who you are. That's not who you are. That's the thing that's happening, but it's not the essence of who you are, if we can separate ourselves from the thing. I've recently had several funerals of people I went to high school with, one last Saturday, and it became very imperative to me that everybody I've ever interacted with, I want them in my peaceful file folder. I want them in the peaceful file folder, which would require what? Forgiveness, 70 times 7. In order for somebody to get in your peaceful file folder and for you to be able to keep them there, you get to forgive them 70 times 7. And I don't think we can do forgiveness work alone. The way our ego's set up, each time you try to forgive somebody, it's going to go, oh yeah, but remember when they did that, and they did this, and let's not forget that. So it keeps supplying data, and it's almost impossible to get there. So I think inviting in, God help me forgive whoever, Susie, Joe, whoever it is, and work with it until you can feel the release. It does not mean audition for the role again. That doesn't mean you have to go back and audition for the role again, because you can stick with the lesson that you learned and move on down the road. You guys are lucky because you've got the Jung Center down here. And Jung is one of my absolute favorite people to study, and this the study of imago match and how these things keep winding up in your life. You're going, how did this even happen? How is this person showing up for another round that's just like the other one and the other one and the other one, until you get all the way back to the beginning of whatever was going on, and then somebody made up a name for that branch of psychology called woundology. I don't know, but there's names for everything. One thing I learned from Deepak long ago, listening to him, if you make up a word and it turns out to be a good word, you're instantly famous. So if you can just think of a word that's a good word. So he made up synchrodestiny. That's a pretty good word, isn't it? Because Jung had synchronicity way back, and then Deepak made up synchrodestiny. And so who makes up these names anyway? But we live in a day and age like that. So if you're the creative type, which is back to Eric Butterworth again, if fear cuts off the divine flow, what does that mean? It means your creative ideas stop. Suddenly you can't think of anything. And you can have people around you giving you good ideas, and you can't let it in because your container's full, and you can't take it in. You've got all sorts of reasons that the answer's no, or not now, or later. And sometimes there isn't a no or a later. You get to seize the day. I have studied the Tao Te Ching for years, and I'm not sure that the Tao doesn't have all the answers, really, for me, way back before Christianity, before Buddhism, way back. And one of my favorites is that life is 10,000 joys and 10,000 sufferings. So sometimes you're just in a suffering cycle, and then you're not in it anymore. And sometimes you're in a joy cycle, and then you may not be in that anymore. And then you get to learn what you get to learn as you go through that flow. But another sentence out of the Tao I love is this one. Do you have the patience to wait till the mud settles? Because sometimes things are just all up in the air and everybody's all hot and bothered and in the middle of it. And patience did not used to be one of my strongest virtues. I'm significantly better with the help of everything that's mystical and magical. But sometimes if you can just wait till the dust settles, things will be quite different. If you can just wait till the dust settles. And if you can't, then you can't. Maybe you've got the advocate archetype and you're the one supposed to be in there in the middle of it helping with the issue, but we're not called to do everything. That's another thing. I was telling somebody today, you can't chase two rabbits. I sure have tried for a long time. Have y'all not tried? And so then you got to really focus on what am I called to do? What's my assignment? What is my part to do and not my part to do? We had elections at Unity Dallas this week for a board member. Someone actually asked me if I wanted to be on the board. I've never been on the board. I don't want to be on the board. And I got up and went to the restroom. I was scared to death someone was going to try to nominate me in the process of it. So I'm not called to do board or a number of other things. I can do this. I don't mind being in the teaching arm, but I don't want to be on the board. But the people who are on the board, hopefully they're called to be on the board of anything. Being on a board of anything, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, and a lot of waiting until the mud settles things. And you're going, man, that one just didn't for me. One of my close friends was on the board and called me at the end of a meeting that lasted 11 hours. I would have run out like a screaming banshee. I mean, that just couldn't work for me. So the point to that is listen to what are you called to do? What's your assignment? What's your part of the world, the earth, the people for you to take care of that you're called to do? And sometimes you get a life assignment change. You're rocking along and you're doing this for a long time. And if you lose your passion, it's probably not yours to do anymore. Passion meaning pass I on. So if you're not passionate about passing yourself on to do that, it's probably not yours to do anymore. Maybe your assignment changed and you didn't even notice. You'd been doing it so long that the universe is shifting you to something else that it had rather that you do now. And one of my favorite books is called Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. It's deep. It's one of those that you might want to just read a few pages and let it settle and then go back. Because for those of us who are in the second half of life, it's a different kind of meaning in the second half of life than it is in the first half of life. The first half of life, I think, we're more concerned with what people think and what does the world expect of me and this and that. And in the second half of life, in theory, we're to be more connected to our soul and what is my soul up to? What am I being called to do? And I'm going to close with this, what the Tao Te Ching says, that if you care what another thinks, you're held their prisoner. If you care what another thinks, you're held their prisoner. Because at some point you get to check in to your inner knower that you know, that you know, that you know, that you know, and then that's that. Because if there's still anybody that you're very concerned or even a little bit concerned about what they think, it can run you all over the place. Because there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions that don't mind sharing them. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank y'all for having me, and I have handouts and they'll be back there. Yeah.